Hi and welcome to Scrapbook.com. My name's Alexandra and I normally blog over at Hedgehog Hollow, but I'm thrilled to be here today to tell you all about the new Tim Holtz by Tonic stamping platform. There's so much you can do with a stamping platform, and at a great price point this is well worth the wait. So let's get started with some great ideas. So here is our Tim Holtz platform, the platform that we've all been waiting for so long since CHA. It's finally landed here in the US. I know Europe's had it a bit longer, but I'm really excited to show you some top tips and different ways you can use your press and just a getting started guide. So before we even go anywhere near stamping, I'm going to open up this lid, which is hinged and it's double-sided. It is designed to come out of there, so don't worry if that happens to you. We'll get to that in a second. The first thing I want to talk to you about is your magnets. Now these are really strong magnets, and if they slap together too often, they're going to smash. Now if that does happen to you, and I'm going to slide these together carefully, always slide them apart, don't pull them apart. But one thing you'll find is they can be a little bit difficult to pick up, and another way to not have any issues is to add some little tabs around them. So here I have some duct tape. I like my pink polka dot duct tape. And what you want to do is, you can use masking tape, you can use washi tape, it's not quite as strong. I like this particularly, and I should have used my non-stick scissors, but there we are. I like this one in particular because if those magnets happen to smash inside, firstly they're still going to work, and secondly they're going to hold all the pieces together, and those pieces can be quite sharp. So what I do is I tend to put it all the way around and then just snip it straight, so that when I put it down in a second, like this, I can just pull one of these tabs and pick it up nice and easily. So I'm going to do the same with my other one. Just going to pull this open. And again, if you've got some non-stick scissors, it will work much better than what I'm doing here. So I'm going to stick this one down. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to press it all the way around, and then I'm just going to neaten up that edge. So now I have some tabs around my magnets, and now I can start stamping. So that would just be my first tip, to start by putting those tabs on your magnet there. Now this stamp press is designed to stamp with either your clear or photopolymer, or with your easy mounted rubber stamp. So I've got a few different sets here that we're going to have a look at, and some of the different things that you can do using your press. So let's start with some clear stamps. I'm going to use my waffle flower enveloper and just some plain stamping cardstock. So we're going to lift this hinged lid out. It has two sides. One says rubber, one says clear. This grid is actually molded into the plastic, so you can't rub it off when we clean, but I will get to some cleaning tips as well for you. So we're going to pop this in now. You pop it up at a 90-degree angle, it clips in, and you fold it down. So now we can put our cardstock in. We have 8.5 inches to work with. We can work with bigger things. We can put our 12 by 12 in because it can hang off the edge here. You're not going to have any issues. This comes in one size, unlike some of the other stamp presses, and you don't need anything else. So we have this here. We also have our T-guide or corner guide, so that we can make sure we put our paper right up to the edges. So I'm going to pop my stamp down here. You can position it wherever you like. You can have it there, you can have it in the middle, wherever you want it to be. I'm just going to pop it at the top here. Then you close your lid, press down over your stamp. That will pick your stamp up, and my stamp is pretty sticky. I think it had stays on last time. You then can open it up like this. So if your cardstock's moved, you can just push it back into that corner, or leave it if you're going to cut it out anyway. I'm going to use some Distress Oxide Abandoned Coral, just because it's a new colour, and I'm having fun with exploring all of those colours. So I can now stamp over the top, or ink it up rather, and I can stamp it down. And what you want to do, I find kneading it, just like some pastry or a piece of bread, will give you the best image. Got a pretty good image, but there's a few patches missing. Well, the beauty of a stamp press is I can ink up my stamp again, and I can stamp it down, and it's going to come down in exactly the same place again. No issues, no movement. As long as you don't move that cardstock, or you pop the cardstock back into that corner groove, you can see I'm getting a much better impression. And you can keep going depending how solid you want your impression to be. no problems at all. And I have a few tips coming in later in this video about how to get some great impressions using a stamp press as well. And those magnets are holding my paper in place, and there you can see I've got my perfect image. Now if I put another piece of cardstock in, or I just turn this piece of cardstock around, I can stamp back down again and I'll have it in exactly the same place. So it would almost look like that mirror image. So you can stamp 10, 20, 100 cards if you're making invitations, things like that. You can stamp out as many as you like. They're all going to be in the same place, which is just absolutely wonderful. Just cleaning that off with the stamp chamois, and I just use water on there. So I'm going to pop that stamp to the side. Now what if you've got a rubber stamp? Well, we're going to bring it back round. We're going to bring it to that 90-degree angle. We're going to turn it around. We're going to clip it in. And now our rubber side is face up. I've got another piece of cardstock. I have all mine pre-cut. And I'm just going to pop that into that guide there. And I'm going to pop my magnets on top. I've got the Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous Sea Life set. I saw Tim demo this and I just fell in love with this octopus. So let's use him again. I'll turn this to the side. I'm going to move my magnets slightly out the way because otherwise they're going to be in the way of his tentacles. No issue at all. And let's stamp him out with, we'll add some Salty Ocean first, I think. So we're going to close our lid. We're going to pick up our stamp and we're going to open it back out. Now I'm not going to ink him all over. I'm just going to ink him in patches, and you'll see why in a second. Little fun idea you can do. So we're going to press this down like so, and you can see that there's some areas missing. Don't worry. I'm now going to clean off my stamp chamois, and now I'm going to add, let's find another fun colour. Let's go for a pink one, because who doesn't love a pink octopus? And I'm going to add a little bit more ink this time, and then I'm just going to spritz it with water because this is an acrylic surface. Tim has designed this that you can attack it with all of your mixed media paints and all that fun stuff. And now we're going to stamp him down again, and he starts to marble. Now I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to give this a quick dry so I can remove this, pick it up. I can take my heat it tool, my Ranger one, and this is going to marble some of those colours together. So some of those areas are purple, and we have a pretty funky octopus here, I think, but we can dry him off. And I'm just going to take some excess off with paper towel just because of time in the video. And then I'm going to pop this back up there into that corner, and I just like to do a check, and I'm going to go in with the blue again because I want that strong blue over the top. So whether you want to add multiple colours, maybe you want to do that envelope scene we had just now, and you would like to do her face in one colour, you want to use your zig markers to stamp out, you can keep going back, and then you can see in the background we've got some lovely purples in our octopus, we've got that pink background, and it's stamped in exactly the same place, so no blurring at all. So that's another great thing you can do with your stamp press. So that's the basics of how you use a stamp press and what it's designed for. So you can stamp multiples, you can stamp over and over, and you can do some really fun techniques with adding multiple colours. Now I'm going to go back to my clear side, so I'm going to pick this up at 90 degrees. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to put it back down. It's just a little bit damp from when I was stamping, so I'm just going to give it a wipe with some kitchen towel, but we'll get to how to clean it in just a moment. Now, a good friend of mine, BB Cameron, who runs an excellent blog, do check her out, bbcameron.co.uk. We were chatting about how people didn't like the idea that this didn't have any foam in it, like a Misti or some of the other stamp presses that are out there. So she suggested an excellent tip of just put your own foam in. This is the 2mm easy foam that I use on all of my cards. And this is the thinnest foam you can get, and it will give you that better impression. So we can put our piece in. I'm going to grab my enveloper girl again. Let's pick her up. And this time we're going to do her in, let's do some cracked pistachio. So this again, a distressed oxide, so it should give us a nice vibrant colour. But what that foam will do is just give you a softer stamping surface to give you a better image. All the links for everything that you're seeing in this video will be in the description below, and I'll also ask Scrapbook.com to link up the blog post that I'm going to do with some more hints and tips. So you can see there that we've got an excellent image just through the first time stamping, and that's purely because we put that foam underneath. And we could go there, we could stamp again, so we can pop it back in. We can put it back into our guides here. It's still, even with this 2mm taken out, you've still got plenty of room to stamp. It's not going to break anything, and it works really well. Now you only need to really do this on the side that has the unmounted stamps. If you have something that's red rubber, you really don't need this foam unless it's ultra detailed, but you can play around with what works for you. So you can see there, I took it out, I popped it back in into those guides, and it stamped out perfectly because of the way the stamp press is set out. So that's another tip for you. Now I have my next favorite tip, which is about craft sheets. So this is a Ranger craft sheet that I have cut down to 8.5 inches square. I keep these in all my stamp presses, so it doesn't matter whether it's the Misti, the Hampton Arts, the Weir Memory Keepers. I have them cut to every single size. It doesn't affect you using your magnets. I've still got the foam in there, and it's still being held by those magnets because they're so strong. The reason I put a Teflon mat in here is a bit like if you have, I've got some grid paper here that I laminated to put in my Misti, and this went in there perfectly. This is just some of the gridded work paper. You can also use the square maths paper that we get in Target for back to school season and laminate it up, and it will fit in perfectly. But I like the rubber mat because I can throw water at it, I can throw alcohol inks at it, I can clean it with everything, I can throw paints at it, and even if I'm using StazOn and any overstamp. So if I have a much larger stamp than my piece of cardstock, or if I had this piece here and I wanted to stamp my octopus off the edge like this, some of the ink's going to go onto this Teflon mat and it will clean straight off. It also means that when I'm doing some heat embossing, it's going to absorb that heat. So I tend to put my embossing powder on, I keep this on my workspace all the time, and then I can heat emboss directly onto here because of that Teflon mat. Do not heat emboss if all you have is the plastic or the foam. They will melt. You need something that's going to absorb that heat for you. So that's how I do mine, and do just be careful because of course it is plastic, it will melt if you heat it for too long, but it is just great because you can throw everything at it. So that's another tip for you. Again, it's all linked below, and this is just cut to 8.5 inches square, as is my foam, and I cut that on my rotary normal paper cutter. So we've covered that. We've covered how to stamp with clear and with your rubber stamps. We've covered how to stamp multiples. Another thing that a stamp press is really handy for are those multi-step stamps. So let's grab another piece of paper. Let's pop a couple of magnets down. And here I have my Hero Arts Layering Goldfish set. Love this set. Love that sentiment of just keep swimming. Reminds me of Dory from Finding Nemo. Now this one only has 2 steps, some of them have 4, some of them 3. I mean, you can get as many as you like. And what you can do is you can stamp out your first image, and I'm on the correct side, just checking that. And I'm going to start with some antique linen. I haven't tried out this colour combination. This is not the recommended one, so let's see where we go. So I'm going to stamp down with some antique linen. Nice image. And then we're going to add some highlights with some spiced marmalade to our goldfish. So to do that, normally we put this on an acrylic block. We kind of close our eyes and hope to get it in the right place. Well, not anymore with a stamp press. Now you want to stand directly above it, so excuse me if you see my shadows come into the shot, but if you stand directly above it, you can line this up almost perfectly. Now, if you sit slightly to the side, you will get a bit of a skew, so I suggest just putting yourself directly over. Again, we can pick it up. We can add our highlights. And we've added the perfect 2-step stamp. You can also do that if you use the Concord and 9th turnabout stamps. There is a video on the Hedgehog Hollow channel about how to create your own turnabout template like this and how to use them. But again, you can just use it in those corners and turn it around. So again, multi-step stamping is super easy with one of these stamp presses. Now in this press, you can still use all of your Misti corners. if you want to know about Misti corners, do check out Hedgehog Hollow on YouTube, because we do a series of lessons on how to use them. You get all these different shapes to help you line up sentiments, do some creative masking, all sorts of fun things, but you can still use those corners, which are my favorite type of magnets. These are great for, let me grab another piece of paper here. If you want to extend that corner because you want to stamp off of here, you can do that, and it will also hold smaller pieces in place really nicely. So if I've got a banner, I can hold that small banner in place with these, or you can put that banner down just with a piece of masking tape and off you stamp, and it's not going to really move anywhere. If you need to pick it up, you can pick it up and you can put it back, and you know again it's going to be in exactly the same place. Now you can also use it as a great storage tool. So when I'm doing a video, I have multiple Mistis, and I think I'll be getting quite a few of these as well. And when I'm working, I tend to just, once I've done a stamp, I stick it down onto that acrylic piece. Whether it's open or closed, it doesn't matter. But otherwise, I tend to lose the stamps. And then usually I clean at the end of a stamping video rather than during. And then I can just go over them all. They all happen to be there. And then I can stick them back in the packet. So another great way, if you're like me, you have lots of small stamps around and you want to have a way that they don't all get lost in your stamping space. Now the other thing that I wanted to show you is how to get perfect placement using a stamp tool of your rubber stamps. It's very easy to put a photopolymer where we want it to, not so easy to get a rubber stamp where we want it to be. So if we take this lovely crab, I'm going to move my Misti corners out the way, and I'm going to grab another piece of paper. I also have a piece of window sheet. This is the backing off of your rubber stamps. So when these photopolymers arrive, they have a backing sheet on. This is one of those. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my crab, and I don't really know where I want him to be. So I'm going to start by putting him right in the middle, and then we can maneuver from there. So I'll pop a magnet down. I'm making sure that this piece is nicely aligned against my grid. I'm going to need to turn this around so I have my rubber side face up, so it says rubber. I'm going to also just remove this foam, but I am going to keep my Teflon mat in. Like this. Again, and I'm going to hold my magnet. Let's have a bright red crab, because we're feeling decadent today. So this is the Candied Apple Distress Oxide, and I'm going to stamp it onto my window sheet. Now I can decide where I want it on my paper. So keep a couple of fingers on that window sheet, and now you can move your cardstock around. So if I want him to be in this bottom corner, just as though he's on the top there, that's exactly where he's going to be. I'm going to put some magnets down to hold my cardstock in place. Remove this, you can just wipe this off with some water on your stamp chamois because they're a water-based ink. And now when I stamp my crab down, he is going to be in the perfect place. So that's something else that you can do with a stamp press that you couldn't do without one. It's just get that perfect placement for your rubber stamps that you can't see through. Now finally, I want to talk to you about cleaning. Another reason to keep this Teflon mat in there is if you close the lid by mistake and it's got some ink on it, it's going to stay in your base piece. Yes, we can get it off, and I'll show you how to get it off either, but it's so much easier to get it off that Teflon mat. I can just take my stamp chamois and I can wipe it off. The same if it got onto the bottom panel, because it's water-based ink, I can take my stamp chamois. It does smear a bit more. It is easier to clean it off your craft sheet. Now, if you want to just clean it, you can take water. You could use a Clorox wipe because nothing is etched in here. You don't need to use that Nova solution. You can, if you get some stays on here, and trust me, I do that a lot. If I grab one of my, I have some VersaFine to hand. So I put this on. Oops, I got some on my stamp press. What do I do now? Well, actually, it's really easy to get off. Of course, it's easier when it's wet, but you can let this dry. Now, if I just go in my stamp chamois, it's going to smear, and it has left some dirty marks there. I'm going to grab that alcohol blending solution. Little bit goes a long way. Put it down. All sorted, and it's all gone for you. Now you can do exactly the same on this top panel. I've got some ink here. I can just take my stamp chamois and wipe it off. If it's something a little bit more stubborn, Then again, you can take your alcohol blending solution and clean it up. You can also use some Goo Gone on there if you get some sticky stuff on there. Whatever you get on here, Tim has designed it that it will take everything. There is nothing that's going to rub off on you. You might rub off a little bit down here, but the key stuff that we need for our stamping is never going to go anywhere. So I hope you've enjoyed my review on the Tim Holtz Tonic platform. There is a grade it's worth mentioning on the top here to help you line things up as well. But as I said, it's molded into that plastic, so it's not going anywhere. But I do advise you to get a Teflon craft sheet and of course a piece of that fun foam, which is all linked below the video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below and I'll come back and answer them. All your supply lists from Scrapbook.com are there as well, and do check out the Hedgehog Hollow YouTube channel for more crafty ideas. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you again soon. Happy stamping. Bye.